better get an idea of how that person is feeling. So, just a little bit of the overview for the last session in regards to Chelsea's delayed grieving. Chelsea's grandmother passed away. She lived with her grandmother for about a decade. Her grandmother passed away when she was 13. And the type of environment her household is, she had to be that adult for the adults at that time period. And so now that she is an adult, she doesn't really have the time to grieve because she has to, of course, keep on with her day-to-day schedule as far as going to work and other obligations that she does have. In regards to Dondre, Dondre has had three close ones die back to back, and he was facing more of a delayed grieving situation because he is still in a situation of having to be that person for everyone in his family. So, just to continue or piggyback off of the first session that we had, I did disclose to you guys that for this session, we will be drawing how we feel about our loved one or whatever comes to mind when we do think of our loved one. And I'll let Chelsea go first and then Dondre, and you guys can, of course, say on the audio what the drawing is because this is not a face-to-face session due to COVID. So we'll let Chelsea go first in regards to what her drawing is and what it represents, and anything else that she may want to add afterwards.
Okay. I drew stick figures, but the taller one is my grandma. The shorter one is me, and she's holding my hand, and we're in my mind. I didn't draw this, but I drew her and I drew me, and she's holding my hand. But in my mind, we're on our way to Eckerd's, which used to be, it was like CVS before CVS, I guess. It was a pharmacy. I used to go there with her a lot to get her medicine, and she bought me a toy when we went. I just remember it as a happy time, but also now that I'm looking back, it's kind of bittersweet because we were going there to get her medicine because she was sick. But I was a child. I didn't realize that. It was just an adventure of getting out the house with grandma.
Okay. And so, do you know around how old you are in this picture?
Um, I would say like 4 or 5.
Okay. So I know that in our previous sessions you did mention that you do have a counselor, and that you've had counseling sessions outside of me. So have you ever expressed the delayed grieving situation with any other counselor?
We talked about my relationship with my grandmother, but not in the sense of delayed grieving. No.
Okay. And so in regards to how you are feeling now, um, and how you feel like you don't have enough time to grieve, do you feel as though there is anything that you can change in your schedule or do in your schedule to have a little bit more free time in order to begin your grieving process? Or do you feel as though it should just kind of happen when it happens?
Um, I honestly don't know. I'll be honest. I think deep down, I feel like it should happen when it should happen. But there's another part of me that feels like, okay, well, maybe if I did set some time out the day and maybe wrote her a letter or something, or visited one of her favorite places or something, maybe that could be a part of it. But I'm not sure.
So I know that you mentioned before that you didn't like the triggers because it could make you a little bit sad. So when you do say sad, is it more of like just sad because she's passed away, or is it more so you don't want to feel? Do you want to remember your grandmother daily, or do you want it to just kind of be like on those trigger moments?
I want to remember her daily, but I think the triggers make me sad because I feel like I wish I had more time with her.
Okay.
Like, I still feel like, why did she have to go at that age? Other people, grandparents live today 70, 80. Why did mine have to go young?
Right. And so, in regards to her gravesite, or in regards to maybe where she used to live, or just anything of that nature, have you visited any of these places?
Well, I have a family member that lives in the house that she lives, so I've I've been there plenty of times since, but the last couple years I don't go often, and I do think that it's because it's a trigger.
Okay. And so, in regards to the delayed grieving aspect, um, as mentioned prior in the video, your grandmother passed away when you were 13. And now that you are at the age that you are at now, um, do you feel as though things will get better for you if you let another, decade or two go by? Or do you feel like, the triggers may start happening a little bit more often?
I think they'll definitely start happening more often.
Okay. And then in regards to you having children, and then of course your mother becoming a grandmother, do you feel as though that may, in a sense, become a trigger for you, or maybe raise your anxiety when it?
Definitely.
Okay.
Even now, I feel like me and my mom are kind of joined at the hip, not by her choice, but by mine, because I've already lost her mom, so I'm terrified of losing her. So I don't even let her go to the bathroom alone. Like, I'm following her everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely think that would, come out with my own children.
Right.
Like, am I going to be a helicopter mom, or am I going to, make sure they spend all the time with grandma that they can, even if I'm inconveniencing them? Like, I think it could definitely have negative side effects.
Right. And so I know that you did mention that you were prescribed some medicine. So do you feel as though the medicine that you were prescribed, or that you do take now, do you feel like that helps you in regards to this specific matter? Or do you feel like you would have to be either prescribed something differently, or have to like mourn in a way where you're more at peace with the reality of how things are?
I think my medicine helps. It kind of helps me not be an emotional wreck. Like, I still feel emotions, but I don't always react negatively, if that makes sense.
So do you think, or do you feel as though the medicine will help you in regards to once you have your own children, and the anxiety that comes from, okay, this is the next generation of me being the mom and my mom being the grandparent? Do you feel like your anxiety will flare? Or do you feel as though the medicine that you have now will maybe keep things a little bit in check?
I feel like it may help keep things in check, but I definitely still feel like I'll have those feelings of anxiety.
Okay. So in regards to the writing a letter approach, which is for the next session 3, where you write a letter to your loved one that you are still grieving, decades later, and you can do whatever you want with the letter. You can bury it. You can just store it away. You could bring it to their gravesite. You can do whatever you want with the letter for activity 3. But just in general, the fact that for activity 2, the fact that you drew a very loving memory could also mean that you're in a good place, and that realistically you're still in a happy place, and that's probably why you don't want to remember that she's not here. So I definitely would encourage, maybe printing out some pictures of you guys. And it's totally normal, it's totally fine to, of course, talk to your other counselors in regards to this matter. But I definitely do feel as though approaching it head on will help with maybe a triggering moment in the future. And just the fact that you are still remembering the good times, good memories, even though, it was just a casual day of going to the store for you, it was still a very big deal for your grandmother at that time, who was going to pick up her medicine to keep her in better health. So I think that definitely does show that you are being realistic and that you're present with the here and now. But I do also feel as though um, writing the letter for activity 3 will help you maybe have a little bit more or a little bit less anxiety about what's to come with the triggering moments, and maybe just get some of the words that you want to maybe say to your grandmother now, since it has been some time. You can more than likely get that out, and it'll get to her either way. And so I do definitely feel like that will help you in your situation. If you didn't have anything else to add, we'll start on Dondre.
That's it for me.
Okay, so Dondre, what did you draw your picture to be?
So I drew my picture of a park with me and my dog and my brother, and just like it's kind of like a family gathering, kind of like a cookout, and we're all just mingling, hanging out, laughing, dancing, talking, and just all our families just kind of at this cookout and around the table, just enjoying each other's company and just enjoying like the simplest things in life, down to the basic like just we're outside, we're enjoying each other's company, no phone, just us having a good time with music, just getting back down to the root of just being happy in that sense.
Okay, is your grandmother also in the photograph?
Yes.
Okay. So I know that you stated before that oftentimes when you think about your brother passing away, you begin to feel sad, and then you begin to feel angry for him putting himself in a situation that resulted in his death. So when your brother was alive, would you say that you guys were on good terms? Did you guys have a good relationship, or was it rocky?
Yes, we had a good relationship.
Okay. And
But
so,
it wasn't. It wasn't. It was more so of a relationship of we good, we laugh, we talk with each other. But at the same time, it was more so like I was kind of going through college. I was living on campus, and he was home with my mom. So it was like we would barely see each other. But the times that I did see him, he would be like at work or just be at home chilling with my mom, stuff like that. Nothing too deep, but nothing too distant.
okay. And so now that you've established that you are um, going to speak with your mother in regards to going to counseling, I have also sent you an email with a list of counselors that you could speak with in regards to y'all's matter. But would you say that now you are at a place where you can talk calmly to your mother in regards to this trapped feeling that you've been feeling for the last couple of years?
I do feel like I'm at a place where I can bring it up to her and talk to her about it, but I don't feel like I'm at a place where I can get as deep as I want to get without it being an emotional overload for me.
Okay, and so when you say an emotional overload for you, do you mean more of like anxiety of getting angry, or is it more of like sad based? What do you mean when you say that?
It's more anger based and more sad. It's more of me being resentful, not necessarily angry, but then me also coming to the point of where it's like I'm overloading myself with emotions, and then I could start at that point rambling and just confusing of what I want to actually say instead of how I'm feeling. it'll start merging the two. And I don't know if I'm ready to be that open and vulnerable with myself and with her in that situation.
I know that you also mentioned a lot that, your brother was closer to your mother in regards to, I guess, vulnerability. So growing up, did you and your mother have a strained relationship, or was it more of just like you guys didn't really talk about feelings and emotions?
It was more so we really didn't talk about feelings and emotions.
And
It was more so of me kind of being the big brother and taking care of business while she was at work and working on her marriage and stuff like that. And I was always an independent child, so she really didn't have to too much worry about me.
And so now that you have formed a kind of resentment when it comes down to the relationship with your mother, do you feel as though you have this resentment because you have too much on your plate? Do you feel as though you would still have the same amount of responsibility even if she didn't put all of this with the living situation in your field? Do you feel as though you would still have a lot of responsibility? Because I know that you kind of want her to move out and you live alone, but even if she moves out, you're still going to, I'm assuming, maybe check on your mother routinely. So is that just not good enough for her? Does she kind of want it to where you guys see each other daily? Or
It's more so she doesn't want to move out because she's scared of her health situation and don't want to be in a predicament to where she's stressed out and have to, step up. I don't want to say step up to the plate, but she just doesn't want to be put in a position to where her health knocks her out of her job and now she's not making enough money to survive. And that's kind of putting a crutch on me. But at the same time, it goes deeper than that for myself because it's like, am I being selfish? Or am I thinking like that's not fair to me that she's scared of living life and using me as a crutch? And now if I feel like she's using me as a crutch and I want to speak on that, that's me being selfish. And then something happens. And then it's like, that's now I'm going to be putting that on my conscience. You know what I mean?
right.
Just because I wanted to live my life.
And so when it comes down to the finances part, have you discussed with your mother that maybe if she needed help, you would financially help if she needed some type of assistance? Or is it more of just like she just completely doesn't want to be in that situation?
She just doesn't completely want to be in that situation because what if God, what if I die? You know what I mean? At the same time, what if I die? Then what you gonna do?
Right. But she works full time?
Yes, she works full time and she also goes to dialysis. So she's saying that once she leaves dialysis, it's starting to get, since she's been on dialysis for 10 years, it's starting to get heavy on her body when she leaves dialysis now. Like she's starting to feel more sick as she gets older and doing dialysis and then pulling the fluid from her. It's starting to make her weak and hard to drive back home after she's worked a full day. So
has she considered maybe switching jobs to maybe something that's less demanding or less, hours in the day?
I think she wants to do that, but at the same time, she wouldn't be making the amount of money she would want to make.
Okay. So, in regards to your sister, you stated that you couldn't really talk to your mother about how you're feeling. Have you said any of this to your sister, or what does she do to your sister, and if she does anything, kind of like on the same aspect of what she's doing with you?
No, I think she does that also as well to me, so she can have some security to be able to hang out and do things with my sister in a comfortable position as well. Because say she does get sick and she can't afford it, she won't be able to do like the things she could do with my sister anymore, like go get their hair and nails done and all this other stuff. So just being there with me as a safety net is giving her more life in a sense, but taking life from me in a sense. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes. So,
And that's what makes the resentment kick in, because I'm like, that's not fair to me.
and
But then that makes me think, am I being selfish?
and so when
Because I know her situation.
right. And so when it comes down to you guys' living situation, do you feel as though it is that unbearable to live in the same house? Because you've already stated that, you know, you can have company and, you know, everything else, but you've also stated that she does kind of cramp your style a little bit in certain aspects. So do you feel as though if she just completely stopped, you know, I guess cramping your style when you had company, do you feel like then it wouldn't be such a big deal if she lived there?
It's honestly not a big deal that she lives there. Like, she honestly doesn't care what I do, and she lets me do anything I want, and she really doesn't get in the way. But it's just the fact that, you know, when you're growing up trying to become a man and you're trying to start something that's long lasting, it's like people don't want to do that with you and your mother as well at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so in regards to the grieving that you never got a chance to, or you feel like you've never gotten a chance to properly do, um because you will begin feeling sad, and then all of a sudden that sadness turns to anger. So do you feel as though creating more relationships with people will is an escape from having to deal with the emotions that you never got to deal with anyways, in regards to the three deaths that you had back to back? Is do you
Yeah.
feel like
Never,
do you feel like in a way you're kind of trying to like escape from your mom in any type of aspect possible?
maybe.
Because I know you
I never
mentioned,
really, yeah, I never really looked at it from that perspective.
you know, I know that you mentioned that you did the show for a couple of months. You loved the job that you were at, but you quit the job to go and, you know, pursue a dream of yours, to chase a dream of yours of being on television. And although there are plenty of people who do the same thing, the fact that you were able to do this and kind of, you know, have your own identity, I feel is why you maybe reached for that more than anything, as well as you're always, you know, working jobs that are very, very far away. So it's not to say that you know, obviously you're going to be working back in Houston soon, but you know, I definitely would look into that a little bit more if I were you, just in regards to if you're trying to escape your mom for a couple of months here and there, or for a year here and there, because the avenues that you're going through, even with you dating a spouse, you've said that she doesn't bother you. She kind of gives you your own space, but you also don't want her in that space if you have a spouse. So it's kind of like you're trying to separate yourself from the identity of whatever your mother thinks of you. But the fact that you have so much delayed grieving also could be another reason why you're running, because you just kind of, I don't feel like you're really in touch with the reality of things right now. Not to say that you're wrong. By no means am I saying that you're wrong, but I just definitely do feel like you should maybe look into looking at healthy ways to grieve certain aspects before jumping into other aspects, and maybe, you know, having even more things, maybe like having like a domino effect or something, because you haven't dealt with, like, let alone one death, three deaths, you know. And then the fact that all three debts are attached to your mother as well, you know, I think could also lead to the resentment and why you kind of don't want to dwell on it, and probably why you get mad at the situation itself. Maybe that's what I'm kind of gaining from the stuff that I've been hearing from you. You can correct me if you feel like I'm off on certain things, but it does kind of seem like because you don't know how to deal with the delayed grieving, or actually because you never got to deal with the grieving of your dog, you never got to deal with the grieving of your grandmother, you never got to deal with the grieving of your brother. You know, I feel like you're on a quest to feel like you have your own identity, but you're also very resentful because she has expressed that she needs you. And at this moment, I don't feel like you want to be needed by her. Like, I feel like you would probably feel a little bit differently if you were like maybe 50 or, you know, older in age. But the fact that, you know, you're this age now, I feel like maybe that's why you're resentful and just trying to not grieve any situation because it's kind of attached more to her than that person, honestly.
Yes. Yeah. That's literally what it might be.
Well, I know that you said that your mother is more than likely open to counseling. So I definitely would recommend that when I give you the list of the counselors again, which I've already sent to you via email, but I'll give it to you again via text. And I definitely do feel like you should sit down and talk with your mother and just kind of approach everything head on. I feel like the delayed grieving is more geared towards like your grandmother. You couldn't really process everything that was going on because your mother was arguing with your aunts, you know. So it's like that situation there in your mind, you're like, oh, that's another situation where my mom, you know, overdid something. And so when it comes down to your dog dying, you know, in your mind you're probably like, you know, I just asked her to do this one thing and she didn't do it, you know. And so then when it comes down to your brother, you know, you probably feel like, oh, she should have, you know, been more stricter on him or been this or been that, you know. So everything boils down to, I feel like, your grievance with your mother and not really with the person. And I feel like that's kind of why, that's another aspect that's maybe adding on to the delayed grieving, outside of the fact that, you know, of course you're working very long hours, you work even on weekends, so all of that just plays a factor. For the next session, we will be writing a letter to our loved ones for session number 3. Once again, I am very, very grateful for both of you guys having this session with me. And I will reiterate that everything we talked about today is completely confidential. The only other person who will listen to this audio is my professor, so that she can critique and, you know, tell me where I need to make corrections in my counseling journey. But other than that, this audio will not be shared anywhere else. If you guys don't have any more questions, we are done with the session for tonight. If you guys are good.
I'm good.
Okay, so
I'm good.
like I said, we will continue things for the next session. Today's theoretical orientation was focused mainly on the approach of Adler's with, you know, of course, we drew the picture in the beginning of the session. So we're going to continue with Adler's approach for the next session, and you guys can begin working on whatever letters you guys want to tonight or, before the next session. So I will be in touch, and you guys have a great night.